Automotive financing, used Toyota resale values, the 2026 Toyota Camry Hybrid, and the escalating cost of high-voltage car insurance are the primary forces driving the global car market right now. But there is a brutal engineering-backed truth about city versus highway driving that neither your dealership nor your car's digital dashboard will ever admit. Why is it that the urban jungle, the very place these hybrids were designed to excel and save you a fortune in fuel, is actually a silent killer of your engine's internal metallurgy, while the wide-open highway is currently cooking your high-voltage inverter and shearing your transmission fluid into a useless soup? If you have been looking at a new 2026 Toyota and wondering if your specific daily commute is a slow-motion death sentence for your $6,000 battery pack and power split transaxle, your GearHead instinct is exactly right to be suspicious, because the laws of thermodynamics and mechanical friction do not care about a low emissions badge or a slick marketing campaign. By the time you finish this deep technical breakdown, you will understand the precise mechanical reasons why city driving creates a carbon debt that your engine can never pay back. You will uncover the hidden thermal stress that makes highway cruising a high-stakes gamble for your power electronics, and I am going to reveal the one specific thermal threshold number buried in Toyota's drivetrain software that determines exactly when your driving style officially starts destroying your car's resale value. If you want car content that treats you like an adult with a brain and a budget to protect rather than just another target for a monthly payment pitch, take a second to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. Every car has a story, and we're here to decode the ones that the manufacturers are desperately trying to keep hidden from the person who actually has to pay for the repairs once the warranty has officially expired. To understand the truth about highway versus city driving in 2026, we first have to address the biggest myth in the automotive world, the idea that city driving is easier on a hybrid powertrain. From a fuel economy perspective, the urban cycle is a miracle of efficiency, but from a veteran engineering perspective, the constant stop-and-go pattern is a nightmare of thermal shock. In a 2026 Toyota Hybrid, the gasoline engine is designed to be a secondary player in the city, constantly cycling on and off to maintain the battery's state of charge. Every time that engine fires up for a 60-second burst to pull you away from a red light or to charge the pack while you sit in a drive-thru, it experiences a rapid spike in internal pressure and combustion temperature. The brutal truth is that during a typical 30-minute city commute, your engine rarely reaches its optimal operating temperature of 90 degrees Celsius. This leads to the silent killer of modern hybrids, fuel dilution. Because the piston rings never expand fully against the cylinder walls, a small amount of raw gasoline leaks past them and into the oil pan. In an old gas-only Camry, a long highway drive would generate enough heat to boil that gasoline off, but in a city-driven hybrid, that fuel stays in the oil, thinning out the ultra-thin OW18 or OW16 lubricant until your engine is effectively being lubricated by a solvent. If you are a city driver who follows the manufacturer's 10,000-mile oil change interval, you're not saving money. You're essentially performing a slow-motion teardown of your engine's internal bearings. The highway, on the other hand, presents a completely different set of drivetrain debt that almost no one is talking about. Most people think highway driving represents easy miles because the RPMs are steady and the cooling airflow is high. However, in a Toyota e-CVT system, the physics are more complex than in a traditional gearbox. At 80 miles per hour on a sun-baked highway, the electric motors, specifically motor generator 1 and motor generator 2, are spinning at incredibly high speeds to manage the virtual gear ratios. This generates significant eddy current heat deep inside the transaxle case. Toyota uses a specialized world standard WS fluid to lubricate these planetary gears, and more importantly, to act as a coolant for the copper motor windings. As someone who has analyzed used transmission fluid from high-mileage hybrids, I can tell you that highway heat is the ultimate enemy of dielectric strength. If you are a highway driver who does a 50-mile commute in the peak of summer with the AC on full blast, your varnish insulation on your electric motor windings is under constant thermal attack. The ugly truth is that while city driving kills the engine through chemical dilution, highway driving kills the transaxle through thermal oxidation. Dads across the globe are starting to realize that the Toyota tax they paid for legendary reliability only works if you understand which specific system your commute is currently attacking. Let's address the psychological factor of regenerative braking fatigue in city driving. Salesmen love to tell you that city driving saves your brakes, and while your pads might last 100,000 miles, your brake-by-wire master cylinder is working overtime. Every time you touch the pedal in a 2026 RAV4 or Corolla Hybrid, a complex electronic actuator manages the delicate blend between regenerative braking from the motors and hydraulic pressure from the calipers. In a city environment with 300 brake applications per day, that actuator and its associated sensors experience more mechanical cycles in 1 year than a highway car does in 5. We're already seeing a rise in calibration drift and internal solenoid wear in high-mileage urban hybrids. This is the definition of undefined risk. You might save $500 on brake pads over 10 years, but you're carrying a $3,000 risk on an electronic master cylinder that a standard independent mechanic cannot fix. The city saves you at the pump, but it bills you at the service counter once the electronics hit their mechanical cycle limit.
The global perspective on this debate is equally revealing and highlights why a one-size-fits-all maintenance schedule is a lie. In Australia and the Middle East, where highway driving often means hundreds of miles and 45 degrees Celsius heat, the highway destruction of the hybrid inverter is a well-documented phenomenon. The high-voltage inverter is responsible for converting the battery's DC current into high-frequency AC for the motors. On the highway, the amperage flow is constant and high to overcome aerodynamic drag. High-voltage engineers have discovered that this leads to IGBT thermal fatigue. Essentially, the power transistors inside of the inverter go through so many intense heat cycles that the microscopic solder joints on the circuit board begin to crack and delaminate. In contrast, in cooler northern climates like Canada or Northern Europe, city driving and short-trip undercharging are the primary causes of failure, leading to 12-volt battery death and engine sludge. The brutal truth is that your geography and your commute determine which part of your Toyota hybrid will fail first, yet Toyota's marketing continues to push the idea that these cars are indestructible regardless of how they are used. We must also talk about the transmission mystery and why highway drivers are being scammed by the lifetime fluid claim. Toyota tells owners that the fluid in the e-CVT never needs to be changed, but if you are a highway warrior, your fluid is being subjected to constant high-speed shearing and thermal loads. Over 100,000 miles, microscopic metal particles from the gears mix with the oxidized oil to create a conductive slurry. This slurry can eventually bridge the gaps in the motor windings, causing a short circuit that kills the entire transaxle. If you want your hybrid to survive the highway, you have to be the informed engineering advocate for your car. You have to ignore the dealership and change that transaxle fluid every 60,000 miles. If you do, the gears will last forever. If you don't, you are gambling that the dielectric strength of your oil will outlast your car loan. This is the difference between an owner who understands the metallurgy of the engine and an owner who just reads the brochure. There is another layer to the city driving argument: low-speed pre-ignition, or LSPI. In the 2026 Toyota Dynamic Force engines, the compression ratios are extremely high to maximize efficiency. During city driving, when you suddenly accelerate to merge or change lanes, the engine is often at a low RPM but under a high torque load. This is the exact condition that triggers LSPI, where the fuel-air mixture ignites before the spark plug fires. This creates a massive shock wave that can shatter a piston ring land. Dads who drive their hybrids gently in the city, thinking they are saving the engine, are often doing the exact opposite. By never letting the engine rev freely and never getting it hot enough to burn off carbon, they are creating a carbon debt that eventually leads to catastrophic engine failure. This is why many veteran mechanics recommend an Italian tune-up, taking the car on a 20-minute highway blast once a week, specifically for city-driven hybrids. It's the only way to flush out the moisture and the carbon that the urban cycle leaves behind. So, which one actually destroys your Toyota hybrid faster? The research suggests a clear, uncomfortable answer. City driving destroys the hardware, like the engine and the seals, but highway driving destroys the brain, specifically the inverter and the motor windings. If your goal is to reach 300,000 miles, you have to choose your poison and then maintain against it. If you're a city driver, you are currently destroying your engine through fuel dilution and carbon buildup. To fight back, you must change your oil every 5,000 miles and use a high-quality fuel system cleaner. If you're a highway warrior, you are currently destroying your electronics and transaxle through thermal oxidation. To fight back, you must proactively change your transaxle fluid and ensure your inverter cooling loop is flushed and purged of air bubbles every 3 years. If you treat your 2026 hybrid like a disposable smartphone, it will reward you with a $5,000 repair bill the moment the warranty is gone. But if you understand the metallurgy of the engine and the thermal limits of the electronics, you can actually beat the system. I want to hear from you in the comments below. What does your daily drive look like? Are you stuck in urban gridlock for 2 hours a day, or are you a high-speed highway commuter? Have you noticed any early signs of hybrid fatigue, like dropping fuel economy, a noisier engine, or a mushy brake pedal? Let's get a real argument going, because the truth about these vehicles isn't found in a glossy commercial. It's found in the grease and grime of the real world and the actual repair invoices that families are paying every day. We need to hold these manufacturers accountable for the long-term integrity of their designs, and that starts with sharing the actual data from the people who keep these cars on the road. Now, as I promised at the beginning, I'm going to reveal the one specific thermal threshold number that determines the fate of your Toyota hybrid. That number is 105 degrees Celsius or 121 degrees Fahrenheit. In the 2026 Toyota power split system, 105 degrees is the critical point where the inverter's thermal derate logic begins to aggressively limit the electrical current to protect the power semiconductors from melting. If you're driving on the highway in the summer and your cooling system is even 5% inefficient, perhaps due to a dirty radiator, a clogged inverter intake, or an aging electric pump, your inverter is spending its entire life at the very edge of this thermal cliff. Every minute your car spends above this threshold is equivalent to 100 miles of normal wear and tear on the IGBT solder joints. This is the hidden expiration date of the modern hybrid. It's not about the miles you see on the odometer, it's about the minutes you spend at the thermal limit without knowing it. If you are serious about reaching the 300,000-mile mark and you want to arm your head genius, and remember, every car has a story, but only the owners know the truth. See you in the next one.